cherished the youth in this church. And so we're glad that Emma's here today. We're glad that Christian and his brother are here today. And anyway, anybody else who is of the youthful type that couldn't be here today, we would like to bring into this service as well. So thank you for loving my dad and being a great support and a great community for him, because really in the end, community and love is what it's all about. So thank you.
Now we'll hear from a couple of Kent's nieces. We'll start with Cindy.
We always do everything together, so we decided to do this together too. I am Melissa, and this is my sister Cindy, and we are the daughters of Sandra, Kent's youngest sister, and we are from Nebraska. And Kent, growing up, we lived in Nebraska, and Kent lived always a long way away, so we didn't get to grow up with him on a regular basis, but we always did the family reunion things. And he was always, even though we did not see him for many years, and we'd get together, it was like when we see him, it was like we just pick up where we left off with him. He was always just like we just seen him the day before. A lot of fun. He always enjoyed the kids, being with the kids, being part of what we were doing. Although he spent time with the adults doing the adult thing, but he always made his way over to where we were at and joined in our fun. We got to probably spend more time with Kent as we all got older, and he retired, and he and Dorothy did a lot more traveling. And so we got to spend more time with both of them at that time. And he got to meet my three sons and enjoyed them and watched them grow up. And got to meet future wives of my sons, and he just had a warm place in his heart for all of us.
Yeah, I think that, as Melissa said, it's like when we grew up, we lived in California for a while, then we moved to Nebraska. And when we moved to Nebraska, then Kent and the family moved to California, and then they moved to the East Coast. And so I don't know if that had anything to do with us moving to Nebraska. But they did move far away, and so we got to spend our time more at 50th anniversaries or things like that, getting to know him. But as Melissa said, when he retired and they moved back to Texas, then they started doing some of the traveling, and we got to meet up with them from time to time if they're in the RV. One time they were in the RV and they came to Gothenburg, Nebraska, which is the middle west part of the state, and we met up with them. And so it was Melissa and my husband George and her son Brandon, and we got to meet up with them. I remember Uncle Kent having just a book filled. They were headed to a family reunion on the old father would be part of his family, and he had just had a book filled with pictures of all the different family and could tell stories of all the different people in there, and was anxious to learn more about the history of the family and the genealogy and who knew whom and who was related to who. We just love to have those stories, and I love to see the pictures and to listen to him tell stories, because for me, is one of the best storytellers that we have there. I think one of the other things that I remember, yes, our mom got sick. We got to see him more, so he and Aunt Dorothy came up a couple times, and then he and our Aunt Jan came up a couple times, and we got to meet up with them and just sit around after dinners or whatever, listening to them tell stories. And there's nothing like listening to our mom and Ben and them tell stories about their grade school and high school years and the things that they did. surprising that he lived to be here. We heard stories of cows and trees and fake bank robberies and things with cats. It was just fun to learn about the things that they did together and the laughter. I think I remember, well, just his big laugh. He loves to laugh and tell stories. And so one of the things, it was good that we got to know him that way, because if we were to get to know him over the telephone, it would be, we knew that he was fine. Because he was not one to talk on the telephone very long. He'd say, "How are you?" "I'm fine." "How are you?" He said, "I'm fine." And pretty soon he was ready to hang up the phone. We wouldn't get to learn a lot about him over the phone. We got to learn about him by sitting down and telling the stories over dinner. So I just remember just those times where he would be with us and tell us stories and the big hugs, the laughter and the joy that we had with being with him. He was a great guy.
We celebrate his life today.
I'd like to read now. There's an anonymous member of this congregation that asked me if I'd read this, and I said I would. There's an old woodsman proverb that says, "A tree is best measured when it's down." What a truth that is now about Kent, now that he's down but not forgotten. His attributes are easily measured. He loved the young and the old dearly. It was the in-between people that got on his nerves. We thank God for sharing Kent and his goodness with us. Just share a couple of thoughts as she was talking about Kent's laughter. A few years ago we started recording the sermons, and every time I would go back and review the sermons to see how I did when I was preaching and what I thought, how I could improve. Sometimes in the middle of the sermon, I'd tell a joke that I thought would go really well, and I'd tell a joke, and as I watched the videos, nobody would really laugh that much, except I could hear Kent going, "Ha ha ha!" Kent would always laugh at the jokes. Kent was a great guy, and every time we'd come into the office, I don't know if you know this, Kent was retired, didn't take pay from the church, but he spent more hours up there than probably either me or Tina did. He was always up there. Tina's our secretary, and I would wonder, man, he must be diligently working away in the office in there. I wonder what he's spending so much time in there on. And then every once in a while we get an insight as to what he's spending his time on. He'd say, "Tina and John, you got a second? Come in here." And he'd have some dirty joke that he found. Is this what you're doing here? And his heart for the young is certainly true. My daughter Emma would always come to his office every time she'd come visit me, sometimes even before she came in my office. She'd go into Kent's office and he'd pull out his label maker and make a name tag for her, and she just loved that. Kent will be missed. But we also have the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ, that this is not goodbye, it's see you later. It is right and good then that we begin our worship service this morning with prayer. Oh, did we have some lady raiders that wanted to speak? Come on up.
Okay, I'm super nervous because Miss Poe, as soon as I walked in, she said, "Maggie, come here." So I got to read stuff down, Miss Poe. Kent meant a lot to all play graders. He was at every basketball game I ever went to, and pretty much every softball game my junior and senior year. And he always, every time he introduced me, "My adopted granddaughter is Maggie, my softball star." And that's what, he was my grandfather. I loved him, and I know he's in a better place now. Okay, I'm gonna read this story. anybody that had anything to do with sports, they were gonna miss him a lot. He was there, he was the loudest one, he was the first one to softball games. First one to the dugout to hug me. Said, "Oh, the hell of a game, kid, that was great." He come on and hugged me and hit me. "You really stuck it to him." All right, old man. Me and Casey, he really showed a liking into us my junior year, her freshman year. And we were his grandbabies, according to him. I think we were his screensaver on his computer for a while. Casey's mom posted on Facebook, she said that Kent was like a grandpa to Casey, and we're really gonna miss him. And to please pray for all the girls that he loved to watch and for his family. He was one of a kind. That's a true statement if I ever heard it. And another basketball player, Logan, her mom posted, he always put a smile on my face, reminiscent about the time he backed into my car after one of the basketball games. I think Jack was there. No. He knew how to put a smile on anybody's face. Like, I love him. He was like, he was like my best friend, for real. All this is just heartbreak about him being gone. Not being at the games anymore and how different it is. You notice that you don't hear that laugh, you don't hear him cheering, talking smack. That's what he did best. Our softball coach, Coach Burrow, posted, Mr. Trindel was always the first to arrive at the home games and greet the players as they got to the field. When the game was over, he was at the dugout to tell them great game, win or lose. He attended most of our out-of-town games, and the players knew he loved softball and cared about them. He will be missed, but he will be remembered. And he would call me or text me before every game, ask her what time it was at. He was there before I was, and I was on varsity. I was supposed to be there warming up. I'd see him sitting on the parking lot, hollering at me when I got in my car. "Get out of that field! You got to work on it." Thanks, Ken. He was my biggest fan. He bought our neon yellow, hot pink, and bright blue playoff shirt last year, and he wore it with pride. He knew it. He loved us. He kept stats on everything. I don't even know how he knew how to do that. I don't even know how to keep stats for softball. I've been playing all a while. They had, after our season last year, he sent me and Casey letters with all of our stats on it. And all this, he always rubbed it in my face. "There was one pop flag, Jack. You can do it too. There's one pop flag I'm missing." He wrote me a whole letter on that dang pop flag. I wrote that whole letter. And then he was like, "Oh, by the way, you had the hug, I never blah, blah, blah. Love, Ken."